Welcome to Houston Real Estate Radio Today. This is our Memorial Day show. We're stepping back from real estate to honor our veterans and those that have fallen. It's a time for all Americans to come together, and so that's why we wanted to pay tribute to them today and step away from our normal traditional show, which is all about Houston real estate. Only one day a year is dedicated to the ultimate sacrifices made by Americans in war, and that is Memorial Day this weekend. It's been that way since right after the Civil War, and 2013 is unique because this is the 200th anniversary of the War of 1812 and the 100th anniversary of the Moreau campaigns, the 70th anniversary of World War II, the 60th anniversary of the Korean War, the 50th anniversary of the Vietnam Advisory Campaign, the 30th of Lebanon and Grenada, the 20th of Somalia, and the 10th of the Iraq War's beginning. And so that's a lot of American lives to remember through the years, not only our current generation that still serves, but all the way back to our ancestors that have served and given so much for our freedoms that we enjoy today. So I've got on the show joining me today, Kelly Gibson is calling in. She is a senior writer at the Veterans of Foreign Wars magazine. This is the national VFW magazine that goes out to veterans. And so if you are not a veteran, you may not be familiar with this publication. You can read articles at the VFW.org, go under news and events, and you can read about the articles that we're going to be discussing today. She's got a really interesting view on what's going on with film and media. An interesting angle that I haven't seen very many people take. It is about how veterans are portrayed on film. So welcome to the show, Kelly.
Thanks for having me.
You know, it's just such an interesting topic. I mean, like I said, I really have not seen this before in such an in-depth discussion as you have in the articles that you've written. Tell me, what inspired this article?
It was sort of a combination between my personal interest in media studies and sociology, essentially, and a mutual interest between me and my editor. So we kind of worked together and pieced together this idea of how veterans are portrayed on film and what that means, what social implications that has, how people form their opinions of maybe a section of the population they aren't particularly familiar with based on what they see in movies or on television.
Well, and I like it. It's a little bit different because you're not looking at war films, which is interesting. It's really about veterans and how they reintegrate into society after war. And there's been a lot of talk about it, but I've not seen any articles quite like yours. So very interesting. Tell me, from doing the article, from your research, what are your thoughts about this? What do you think is happening on the silver screen when it comes to veterans?
Well, in terms of what's happening, I think that often it's sort of, veterans are portrayed as caricatures. They are a lot more sensationalized than the typical person who served in the military, came home and lives a normal life. And you see that a lot in the media. It's sexy to say PTSD or TBI right now. Those are kind of the buzzwords, and people get scared when they don't know necessarily what that means. And so the media uses this idea of the veteran as a crazy person or having an addled personality because of their combat experience, coming back and being less than providing in the civilian society. So it's been very negative in the past. That's going back all the way to the Spanish-American War even. That's when the portrayal of war films started really taking effect, and it actually really built up the film industry. It was a dying industry, and then after the explosion of the USS Maine in 1898, they used that as a chance to really use film as a medium for news, but also to create stories. And so veterans have been integral in the film process for a very long time.
You know, there's an interesting quote in your article. It says, it is difficult for the public to support the warrior if the warriors are not worthy of support. Mm-hmm. And I think that's so true. And, you know, when when veterans, when people who are veterans go out and do things like shootings in movie theaters, you get this stereotypical negative stereotypes out of that, and but you overshadow all the great people who come, who are war veterans, who come back from war and do great things for our country, even after they've come home.
And you see all of those headlines, they really play up any sort of military experience as if that's some sort of explanation for violence or crime.
Right.
You'll actually, if you look at statistics, see that when you look at the veteran population as compared to the civilian population, they're less violent, they're way more successful, and a lot of it is media interpretation. One little anecdote I noticed recently is veterans as helpers during the Boston Marathon bombing. There was a group of veterans, and they were running in honor of some fallen. And they appeared at the finish line not long before the bombs went off. And because of their combat training, they were able to save hundreds of lives. And that's not something that you see in the media a lot.
Right.
But something that really needs to get out there, those positive stereotypes. Veterans as helpers, they really are out there with their training to do good things for the community, to continue serving even after their military service is over.
Well, that's true. And, we did have the hero who landed the plane in the Hudson, who had been in the military and used his experience to help so many, to help people survive from that plane crash.
Yeah.
So, no, I definitely agree with you. This war has definitely, the after effects of the Iraq and Afghanistan wars have definitely had a different response from the American public than the Vietnam War. Huge difference. Do you think that makes a difference in the way it's portrayed on TV and in the movies?
I really do. You'll see in portrayals of Vietnam how incredibly negative and persistent that stereotype has been. You still see it on television, the idea of a crazy Vietnam vet. And you see it trickling in now. There have been a few episodes of Law and Order SVU or something like that. Actually, there's one coming out, or was recently aired, Law and Order SVU, that portrayed a veteran as a helper. He was helping in a sexual assault case and had details that helped them catch the criminal. But you see a lot of, it's kind of mixed with this one. They're handling things with kid gloves. They don't want to say definitively one way or the other in a negative or positive way. It's all very, I want to stay out of the politics and I want to help people, and it's very people-oriented now, which is not necessarily the case in past generations.
Yeah, well, and there's another part of the article that talks about, it says the filmmakers seem unwilling to delve into the specific ambiguities and complexities of the Iraq War and the lives of its participants. But I think that diving into the lives and the actual the politics that go behind it are what will help future generations to understand what these soldiers went through.
Yeah, I absolutely agree.
I think it's very important that the films depict the families and the loved ones as well that are left behind, and the struggles that go along with it. Even after you come back, once you come back from a deployment, even those in between, because a lot of people don't come back from the war and get out of the military. A lot of them continue on and go to their next duty station, and then a few months, maybe years later, go back to the war again. And we didn't see that in a lot of past generations.
Right. This specific generation is probably the smallest generation and the hardest worked, if you will. They've definitely done more deployments per time in service than any other generation, and that's incredible. It's very interesting to consider also.
The series, the show that's on TV, Army Wives. What are your thoughts on that show? Because I'm gonna have my own thoughts about it. What are your thoughts?
Sure. I haven't seen a whole lot of episodes of Army Wives. I've heard that it's sensationalized for television, but it really hits home for a lot of people. It's hard to say. I would like to hear your thoughts for sure.
Well, as a past Army wife, there are a lot of things in the series that I can relate to, but there are a lot of things that are sensationalized. So it's interesting. One of the things that I find is that if you're going to be a filmmaker and you're going to make these films, you've got to get it right.
Yes.
You have to get it right in every way. The dress codes, the salutes, the slogans. If you don't get it all right, it's not respected, and it's not, it gives a negative connotation to the film and what you're trying to portray through the film if you don't get it right.
Absolutely. And that really is the reason why right now is so important, that there are films coming out that portray these positive stereotypes or do get it right, and they really do their research, because there are so many people who aren't affiliated with any veterans. Their idea of a veteran is a World War II veteran who is maybe a grandfather or something like that. So to really get an idea of this generation of veteran who is so different than other generations, it's incredibly, incredibly important that we get media out there telling them this is really how it is.
Yeah. All right, we're going to take a quick break, get a word from our sponsors, and we'll be back with Kelly for another segment here on Houston Real Estate Radio, where today we are doing our best to honor our veterans.